these designs, these paisleys, these little flowers, these vine and leaf motifs, these fills were created centuries ago by artists who are now dust. And we don't, it's sort of like when the whites came from Europe and said, well, we own this land now. And the Indians looked at them and went, what do you mean you own the land? The land owns itself. And they're saying the same thing.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to The Empire, where we like to engage with everyone from pastors to actors, rappers to trappers, and everybody in between. And you guys better know what? We have another great guest for today. But before we get into it, y'all should know the deal. Or you know what? Let me just let you guys know the deal and what the deal is. And it's not how to make a deal, because I ain't Wayne Brady. It is the deal you guys got to help with us. And that's just to simply like the video. If you're not with us already, please subscribe to the channel. You know, there's other great things that you guys can help contribute to us and what we're doing out here. You can support us with our CASHAPP, which is $THEE Empire Podcast. Same thing for Venmo, The Empire Podcast. For PayPal, paypal.me/The Empire Podcast. And we also have a Patreon, which is The Empire Podcast. And so much great things that we're doing out here. And so we appreciate all the contributors, all the followers, all the shares, everything. We thank each and every one of you guys. If you guys don't know yet and would like to know, maybe you don't, I don't know. But you're going to know. My name is Antonio Lee Miles. I am the host for today. And like I said, we have another great guest today. And it's a lovely woman who likes to do henna body art. Did I say that correctly?
Yes, you did.
And her name is Debi Varvi. Welcome to the podcast.
Love your pronunciation. Thank you.
Gotcha. And how's your day been going, Debi?
Excellent.
Yeah?
Really excellent. Yeah. Thank you.
Man, it's been so windy the past couple of days, but it's so nice to have a calm day, don't you think?
Fabulous. Yeah. I really start to appreciate the calm days and the gentle breezes far more after the raucous winds.
Yeah. You know, we just to let you guys know, we're based in San Bernardino County, and we have like Santa Ana winds, which are just like deadly, I guess you can say, but not so deadly, but it's
ferocious, pretty ferocious.
Ferocious, you know. What was the word we used earlier? Agitating.
Agitating.
It makes it agitating.
They are.
Because everything's just like rumbling and shaking. And
Nothing
so many
is
things.
still.
Yeah. Be still. Be like water. Yes. You know. So, you know, it's really windy, and but it's nice that we managed to get together on a day where it's calm and cool and sunny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
Lovely out now. Yeah.
Definitely. It's always sunny in, I was going to say Philadelphia, which is a TV show.
Yes.
Shout out to you guys. But it's California.
Yeah.
You know. But Debi, for people who may not know who you are and what you do, can you please tell us all who you are and the things that you do?
Well, I'm Debi Varvi, and I'm also, my business is known as the Henna Crone, and henna is a very cultural and ancient art form. It's a way of adorning the body with a plant-based dye that bonds to keratin. And it's named after the henna plant. It's also called mendi or mehendi. And wherever the plant grows, the culture has embraced the medicinal applications as well as the beauty applications. It dyes hair, it dyes nails, it dyes the skin. And the plant is also, I think the scientific designation is Lawsone inermis. And there's a dye molecule in the green leaf that dyes red, which imparts it with a lot of juju, a lot of magic. Because you expect a green leaf to dye green or perhaps yellow, maybe even in, you know, the bluish shades, but it dyes a brownish red, and it bonds to keratin, which we have in our hair and bones and nails. And it bonds permanently, actually, to keratin. If you dye your hair, unlike chemical dyes, it actually stays, the color stays, and then it does grow out. But when you dye your skin, it only dyes the epidermis, and so it exfoliates away. So the stain does not necessarily fade, but exfoliates away with each layer of exfoliation that you naturally go through.
And it's cool, so it's non-toxic and everything like that, right?
Non-toxic, yeah. Traditionally, because the plant has the dye molecules in abundance, you can use the leaves to dye the skin, but primarily they harvest the leaves like twice a year. They dry the leaves, and then they mill them like flour. And so body art quality, which is the industry standard and term, or BAQ, powder, henna powder is very finely sifted. It's sifted at least 3 times. And henna for hair doesn't need to be so finely sifted rather, because it's just a mud. You're going to make a mud out of it. So if you think about like decorating a birthday cake with "Happy Birthday,"
Okay.
that's how it's applied. It's extruded from what we call a henna cone. It's just a piece of mylar that's rolled into a cone, and with a very fine, tiny tip. And that's why the body art quality has to be sifted so fine. You don't want any detritus in there that's going to clog the tip. You want it to be extruded very silkily and readily. And then you
Say
draw with
detritus?
that.
You said detritus?
Yeah. Did I say it right?
I don't know. I don't even know what that is. What is
It
that?
might be detritus. I don't know.
Okay.
It means
Tomato.
Yeah, tomato. Yeah.
Yeah.
I try to have I try to have a decent vocabulary, but pronunciation is not necessarily
It's
my
okay.
strong suit. Yeah, you don't want any stems or bits of leaf in there, anything
Okay.
that would clog the tip of the cone. So primarily, most henna artists will mix their own henna paste. You buy the powder. It looks like green baby powder when you buy it.
Wow.
Yeah. And it smells sort of like, like a greeny dry hay, or almost like the dry grass clippings. And then
Okay.
you can do it as simply as mixing in water. Sometimes coffee and tea is mixed into it.
Okay.
I like to use a mixture of lemon juice and water. And then you add, because we're in a very dry climate here in Southern California, we add a lot of sugar to our mix. It makes it more elastic, makes the paste more elastic. And because when things dry, they shrink,
Okay.
right?
Okay.
So the water would evaporate out of the paste. The lines would begin to break and crack and then fall off the skin. Because it's a natural product, you want to give it patience and time. You have to invest a little.
Gotcha.
So the paste must remain undisturbed on the skin a minimum of 4 to 6 hours to impart a nice, deep, long-lasting stain. And what you're really trying to do is stain your entire epidermis. Go
Okay.
as deep as the epidermis will allow. And then it takes you about a week to 10 days to turn that skin over,
Okay.
right? Thoroughly. And that's why your design will last a week to 10 days.
Okay.
And so using sugar in my mix ensures that there's enough elasticity. Sugar is a humectant. It will absorb moisture where the little there is in the air. It will retain the moisture that's in the paste more readily. And it will remain a little bit more elastic, unable to smear once it dries.
Okay.
But a little more elastic so that it will bend with the skin. It will not shrink so much and crack and fall off too soon.
Yeah, you can move and be more flexible with it. It's still some
Absolutely.
chemistry to it. I like that.
There is.
That's super cool.
Yeah, I didn't do the chemistry and I didn't do the research.
Okay.
If I figure out that it works, I'm super happy with that. But because of the internet and online forums, a lot of the other henna artists worldwide have been more curious about the chemistry, and so I've learned from them.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about growing your own plants?
I don't have a green thumb. That one skipped a generation.
Okay.
My grandmother had a green thumb. My mother didn't. So it skipped 2 generations. But my daughter does.
Gotcha.
And I know several artists
Let's put her to work. Let's make her grow it.
Yeah, exactly. I could. But I really do also love purchasing. I can purchase from, thankfully now henna powder is very fresh, very finely sifted, is available very readily through lots of other henna artists who import it, and they take care of all of the the import. It's just nerve-wracking. You have to go through customs and all that. And, it can be very nerve-wracking.
Nightmare.
All the legalities and things.
Yes.
Especially if you're importing in bulk. And so
Is this henna powder? What type of powder is this?
Oh my gosh, because I do now buy mine from India. I found some very good well researched resources, and it is kind of interesting when you go to the post office to pick it up. You
Okay.
can kind of smell it through the box, and
Okay.
thankfully the ladies at the post office and the gentlemen know me, because it's just kind of hard not to smell the box. It's so exciting, and it came from India, and it's Just really
They're like,
lovely.
"What is this, Debbie?"
Yeah, right.
It's just powder."
It's just
Oh yeah, yes. That's what they used in the '70s. Powder, yes.
yes.
Gotcha.
Suspicious, but they,
You know this is a federal building, right?
it's true. Do feel a little smuggly, like a little
Yeah.
like a smuggler, but it really is quite lovely. And it's just makes you feel more global to
Okay.
interact with people from other countries and talk with them about your requirements and your concerns, and then to hear their responses and to develop these relationships. It's really lovely.
Ah,
Yeah,
and it's always about making good relationships,
absolutely.
I think that's really important. I heard something interesting recently, which is a gentleman. I'll give it out to you. I think it's Marquette Williams. I think that's your last name. I'm sorry, Marquette. That's not your last name. But he said people who live on love, they do things and fill up their love tank.
I love
And then
that.
there's
Yeah,
people who are, I guess, negative, and they do things to fill up their negative tank.
I
But
think that's so true.
I just thought it was an interesting take on it.
Yeah,
Just from talking about the relationships, it's like, okay, yeah, filling up the love tank. That's what it reminded me of.
I really like that. I think that's very true. And I think sometimes we do forget that some people do have the negative tank and they need to fill it just like we need to fill our love tanks.
Yeah,
It's a really interesting concept, you know?
definitely. And in
Yeah.
my opinion, I think it's just like makes me think about. I don't know why I'm going to Adolf Hitler, but that's where my mind's going right now.
Uh,
Have you heard the thing about Adolf Hitler? They said the reason why he was so angry is because he never got into art school.
I've heard that
So
very
it's
much so.
such an interesting concept. So maybe if like he would have received that extra love,
Who knows?
then and gone to art school and become an artist,
Who knows
So
what could have happened? I mean, I honestly do think he was a psychopath. I
okay,
also heard too that he was into amphetamines, which again, things like this sort of click. It doesn't. I just these are things that you read on the internet. Who knows? But at the
yeah.
same time, who knows what would have happened had he? Maybe it would have softened him a bit or given him some sort of outlet for all of this. I don't know, negativity or
Yeah.
rage or whatever was in him.
Amazing energy, obviously, but yeah,
Yeah,
I guess
maybe.
placed in interesting places.
Oh, yeah. So maybe it would have done something, would have derailed some of that horror,
Gotcha. I
you
did hear,
know?
about the methamphetamines, and correct me if I'm wrong, any historians out there,
Yeah.
but I did hear that they would give the soldiers amphetamines so that way they can march longer periods, like through
Oh God,
Russia and everything like that.
the things we do to our people, it's just the worst, isn't it?
We're not doing it.
No, I know, but as the
Like a
the
society as a whole,
government and
yeah.
society and the things that you're just, I mean, that's where, because my father was an Air Force pilot,
Okay.
and
In
that's
what in which war?
he served in the Korean War and he served twice in Vietnam.
Okay.
And he didn't agree with either of those um,
Wars.
wars or
Okay.
whatever they were called. I don't even know if they were actually called. I mean, again, it's semantics,
Mm,
but conflicts.
okay.
And I know he was torn. I remember, how uncomfortable he was trying to talk about it with me. But this is where smoking became really prevalent because it is a self-medicator.
Um,
And I mean, with smokers, which my dad was one, my ex-husband was one. Um, they, you have a fight with your boss, you get agitated for some reason, you light up and
yeah.
you calm. And so they always, in your mess kit, you always had a pack of cigarettes in the
Mm,
military because they were sending you to hell.
basically,
So,
yeah.
right?
One of the medications that you're able to take.
Right?
Do you ever hear the reason why smoking helps relieve distress?
No. The breathing. Oh, how lovely, right? A little yoga
Yeah.
does a lot.
Yeah, it's just the breathing that does it. And it's interesting because I guess in that era, like it makes sense why smoking in restaurants were allowed, and
Right.
I guess the station wagon filled with smoke and the kids in the back.
That's how
with
I
the-
grew
Yeah,
up.
that's
Yeah.
common. No seatbelts, really. The
That's
whole
how I
nine.
grew up. Yeah.
It was normal.
It
It
was
was
totally
normal.
normal.
And speaking about growing up, Debbie, can you give us all a brief story about how you grew up, where you grew up, all the way up to where we are today?
Oh my goodness. Because I was an Air Force brat, as we call ourselves, an Air Force brat. And my dad was a fighter pilot. We never lived anywhere longer than 3.5 years. That was the longest we lived anywhere. And think the shortest was around 9 months when we lived in Alabama. And we lived stateside for most of it. But I was fortunate enough when I was in, I think, kindergarten and first grade to live in Germany. We lived in Spangdahlem and Bitburg. And then when I was a teenager, I was really fortunate to live in Italy. My dad was assigned to Allied Forces Southern Europe, to AF South, for, like I say, 3.5 years. And so I was able to go to Italy and live there, which I'm Italian. All my family emigrated from Italy. And so that was really wonderful. And being able to move around the country was it was an extraordinary life. I was very fortunate. My as hard as that is to pack up and move every few months, every couple of 3 years, my family made it like an adventure. And when we did live overseas, they took advantage of that. Oftentimes, the military will offer discount tourist trips. So when we were in Germany, we got to go to Denmark and Switzerland. And when we were in Italy, we went to Greece and Spain and London. And so I've done a lot of traveling, and I love traveling. And then I ended up in South Dakota.
Gotcha.
They,
Right below north.
I was, yeah, after Italy, I even asked my father, who did you piss off? Like, how did we end up here?
Did you cuss out the cardinal, or what happened?
I know what happened. But he was made commander of missile maintenance. So they were making
promotion.
room. It was, but they were making room for young pilots is what they were doing. It was called career broadening.
Gotcha.
But they're mostly making room for younger pilots. And it was a promotion, but it was South Dakota, mother of God. Like, it was like this dark side of the moon to me.
Okay.
And
Pink Floyd every night, or
yeah, pretty much.
Okay.
Pretty much is where I met and married my ex-husband. And for 35 years, he ended up in the Army. So we were in Tennessee for a little while. And then I ended up back here because he didn't want to re-enlist, and the Army had spent a lot of money on him. And so sent him to a remote base in Germany and would not send me unless he re-enlisted, which is, pretty typical for the service. You can't take these things personally. They invest a lot of money in you, and they want their value for their money. And he didn't want to make a career out of the service. So I came back here to California to live with my parents. My dad was still stationed. He retired from when it was still March Air Force Base. Now it's March Reserve Base.
Gotcha.
But he retired from March Air Force Base, and we ended up here.
Quick question. So re-enlisting is like basically becoming another GI, basically?
Yes. You
Okay.
enlist for an initial time. Like when my husband enlisted into the Army, he enlisted for 3 years active,
Okay.
2 years reserve.
Okay.
And depending on what you enlist for, you can get, I think we got like $1,000 bonus or a $2,000 bonus. And then in this service, it's pretty funny because we used to say that, you can put in for your transfers of preference, but they send you where they need you to go. So we used to say that we really didn't know where we were going until we were at the airport or packing the car.
Okay.
And then they'd be like, no, you know what? We've changed our minds. You're going here. You go where they send you.
Period.
Right?
Okay.
So, and it is the military. There is no choice.
Okay. Or you can leave.
Or no, you can go to jail. You cannot leave.
Oh.
No, you have signed your life
So
away.
it's under contract, basically.
Yes, you are. When my ex-husband was first in the military, he was late 3 days in a row. And they said, you have two choices. You can live on base or you can go to jail. You cannot be late again. And so he finagled and he was able to go back home. But that was a big concession.
Gotcha.
You don't, there's no choice. You sign off on your autonomy and your freedoms. Your home on base, your person on base, anybody on a military installation is subject to search.
Okay.
They don't even need a reason.
Gotcha.
They don't need, it is the military. It is a different lifestyle. It is a different world.
Gotcha.
It has its benefits.
Gotcha. It's like being on Disneyland or a casino, completely different
Completely
rules and
different rules and
regulations.
regulations. Yes, and you are subject to them, especially if you are military. But even if you are a guest on a military installation, and it's not easy. You need to be with a military personnel. You are still subject to the same search and regulations and rules because it is a whole different world. It's a different country almost.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Like a mini country within a country.
absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. So continue. You got to California. You stayed
Oh,
on the.
yes. In 2010, my husband and I split, and I was on my own. By 1999, I've always been an artist. I've always drawn. I've always
Gotcha.
done all kinds of art things. I've taken college art courses. I don't have a degree or anything, but I've taken various, at RCC especially, college art courses. And when we lived in Italy, I was able to take private classes in oil painting and
Cool.
yeah, stuff like this. I've always been an artist. But in 1999, while I was still married, it's hard to say I discovered henna. Henna predates written history.
Yeah.
So I primarily like to say I met henna.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
He was cool.
Yeah. Oh, my best mentor ever.
Gotcha.
Seriously. Opened my world to me artistically as well as personally.
Gotcha. So how'd you meet her?
I just stumbled upon her. I was out shopping with friends in Artesia, which is like a little India community.
Okay.
And one of the girls, my friend Valerie's sister's coworker friend, I think she was, this is back in 1999. I think she was from the Middle East. And we're walking around it was like Alibaba's cave. It was so beautiful. All of these shops with all these beautiful salwar kameezes and saris and these beautiful jewelry stores. And then we passed a hair salon with, the models with beautiful hairstyles. But there we also had models with beautiful mehndi, bridal mehndi, which is in India, you have to imagine red lace gloves. Just gorgeous. The coverage is incredible. And so it looks exotic and divine, and we are enamored. And she starts to explain to us what it is because we'd never seen it before. And so she said, and they'll do it for you if you want to take the time to step inside, and they'll do a little design for you. And we were very excited, but then it's a bunch of girls shopping, so there's a lot to go back and, that salwar that I saw, it was a great price, and those bangles that I saw in that other shop, and who wants chai tea? So
Got you. There's no focus.
there's no focus.
Focus, ladies. Focus.
No, it's like herding
Got you.
cats.
Got you.
Just
Squirrel.
like-
Squirrel.
Squirrel. yeah.
Squirrel. Okay.
Absolutely. Now you got it. You got
Got you.
I've set the scene. That's good.
Got you.
Okay,
It's like hurdling cattle, I guess,
yeah, exactly. So
on amphetamines.
pretty much. So we never got our henna done. But soon after that, I was shopping downtown in Riverside, and I saw this beautiful display of Indian fabrics. And there's this little book, Henna Head to Toe. And I still have it in my studio at home. And I was like, oh, that's that stuff. That's that stuff that, I forget her name, but was telling us about. So I went into the shop, and the lady sold me the book, and I took it home. And it was a nice, I knew nothing except for what I had been told, but it was a nice little primer on henna. It explained not just from the Indian traditions, but also from the North African traditions and some of the Middle Eastern traditions, just a little smattering of information. Some of the medicinal applications. It had some recipes in there for henna for hair, henna for like a poultice, how to stain your nails. And then also how to roll a cone, and also how to deconstruct and reconstruct design. And to their credit, they had designs from North Africa, and they had some Indian designs, and even some Gulf designs from the Middle East. And then they had some what we call festival flash, dragonflies, and little sunshines, and things of that nature. And it was so easily digestible, such an easy read. And they made it so accessible. Because it's so foreign to me. It's something so foreign and yet so appealing. So I lent it to my friend Valerie, who had, been one of the instigators of our little shopping spree. And she read it very quickly and said, oh yeah, let's play around with it. So there's a little Indian deli and grocery store on 3rd and Blaine in Riverside called India Sweet and Spice.
Okay.
We went down there and we looked on the shelves, and we found this little green box of henna powder.
Wow.
we took it.
Lucky.
Yeah, we took it back to to her kitchen, and man, we made a mess because it's like green baby powder.
Mhm.
And so we opened the little cellophane packet, and poof, it just it went everywhere. And we're following the directions, and we're mixing it up, and it takes about 12 to 24 hours to release the dye.
Mm.
And so I came back the next day, and we were mixing it again, and correct, is this to correct the consistency? And we're just reading. You don't have any visuals, just a couple of still pictures. So you're trying to figure out if it's thin enough or thick enough. And I smeared a little on my palm, and it said, you have to wait at least 10, 15 minutes to see if the stain is activated.
Ah.
So we waited, and we're still playing around with it, and I'm trying to roll a cone. We didn't have any plastic, so I think I used wax paper, the famous imploding cone. It was just like terrible. We made the biggest mess, but it did stain my palm after I wiped off the paste,
Gotcha.
and it left an orange stain. It was like my first hit of crack.
Okay.
I will tell you the truth.
Bam.
It captured me.
Got you.
And it had this impact on me that I was not prepared for. I thought it was cool. It was groovy. It was very interesting. But then I was like, oh my God, there was something there.
You've been stained.
I've been stained, right? So
You also said there was medicinal purposes?
there is, yes.
Can you tell us a couple of those?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Henna is an excellent fever reducer. It actually
Okay.
helps drop your body temperature. It treats fungus. So it's when you stain your nails with henna, it makes the most beautiful sunset orange color. But it also treats nail fungus. It treats athlete's foot, ringworm, and certain forms of contact dermatitis. It's actually good for your hair. It's a mud. It's really a mess when you try to stain your hair. But and I do my daughter's hair every couple of months. But and it will dry your scalp because it's a mud, and mud will draw.
Mhm.
But it does. Oh my gosh, her hair is so silky soft. It seals the cuticle of the hair shaft, and it's really good for the hair. It strengthens the hair and provides a lot of shine and beauty, as well as color.
Mhm.
And it is soothing and cooling to the skin. So I think, in my own simple way, I think this is where it is the blessing is imparted, because wherever it's practiced and wherever the plant grows, the traditions of henna have been embraced. It imparts not just beauty, but it imparts blessing, protection, and healing. And so I think this is where that comes from, because where it grows is very hot and arid, and it provides cooling and soothing sensations on the skin. The stain is an excellent sunscreen.
Wow.
Excellent sun. So it provides protection from the sun. They also have these areas like the Sojat region of India, and in Pakistan, and in Morocco, Sudan. All of these are huge henna. Afghanistan, it used to be a huge henna producing nation. All of these places also have areas with monsoonal conditions
Okay.
where you
Interesting.
have to worry about fungus,
Okay.
right? Moisture, ringworm, fungus,
Ah.
right? Dermatitis, bug bites, these kinds of things. And it provides relief and soothes you
Cool.
from these conditions. And so this is where I think the blessing comes in. And the juju from the green leaf creating a red stain, which
Like it's
is
blood.
yeah, exactly. Blood and life and vitality and
Awesome. So let's continue forth to our journey after you fell
Oh,
in love
yes.
with the crack stain.
yes, when I fell in love with my henna crack.
Yeah.
I
Don't try this at home, folks.
actually henna is a folk art.
Yeah,
It's available to everyone.
Got you. It was
Yeah.
a joke. I guess you can try it at home.
You certainly
But-
can. Don't ingest it, but do try it at home.
Don't ingest it.
Don't ingest it. It's all topical.
You heard from the expert herself. Do not ingest.
Do not ingest. No.
Okay.
But yeah, I really because I've always drawn, but because these symbols, these elements of the little flowers and the vine and leaf motifs and the spirals and the little S shapes and the paisleys and the grids, all of these motifs were relatively foreign to me, even though I've always drawn. I mean, yes, you do use leaf shapes. You know, an eye could be considered a leaf shape. You do use leaf shapes and spirals and S shapes and
Yeah.
wavy lines in your drawing, but these were very specific and very traditional and very ancient. And so I worked very hard to master these motifs. And I used to cover the breakfast bar like obsessively with paper towels covered in really crappy, painstaking little henna designs after I finally learned how to roll a cone. And
What's a cone? I keep hearing the word
oh,
cone.
cone, yes. Okay, so if you've ever decorated a cake, it's like a pastry cone. So it's a cone shape
Oh.
where you fill it from the wide back. So you're rolling it like if you were filling a small container with salt or sugar. And you'll take a piece of paper to facilitate less spillage.
Yeah.
You'll roll yourself a little cone with a narrow end and a wide back, and you'll pour. You stick the narrow end in the container, and you'll pour through the back large end, and you won't spill as much.
Or like spelling your name on a cake. It's the same thing.
And
Okay.
you're using it's sort of like pastry cones are huge.
Yeah.
Henna cones are rolled with some sort of plastic film, mylar. You can get the plastic film from the Dollar Tree that they use to wrap gifts, large
Okay.
gifts or Easter baskets. I know an artist who cleans her chip bags and uses that for henna cone
Oh,
material.
interesting.
Yeah. And so you roll it up, you tape it with the clear tape, you strain your henna paste, and you fill it from the back.
Okay.
And then you roll up the end like a tube of toothpaste, the fat end, and then you hold it and squeeze and drag.
Oh.
And that's what extrudes the line and creates the line. And it's a really interesting, like I say, I've always drawn. But if you touch down a pencil or a pen or some sort of even a brush to a surface, the line will follow. You just
Okay.
drag it along and the line you don't have to do much. However fast you go, however slow you go. The line will change a little, but the line will definitely follow. With a henna cone, if you're not squeezing, nothing's happening.
Okay, that makes
Nothing
sense.
will follow.
Yeah.
So you have to squeeze. So the pressure of your squeeze and the speed of your drag informs your line.
Okay.
So to make a pretty line takes a lot of repetition because sometimes you're squeezing too hard and the henna squiggles out very jagged. Sometimes you're squeezing too soft and it's not coming out fast enough and the line will break as you're moving.
Oh, wow.
So if you get your speed just right, then your line is extruded beautifully. And you have the added benefit as you develop familiarity with your tools and with the paste consistency, you have the added benefit of slowing down and increasing speed and thickening the line. So you can vary your
wow.
line thickness in one stroke with practice. It's really a fluid form of creative expression. And I really do, it does take a lot. Some people who have that kind of experience with cake decorating or some other form of art that utilizes that squeeze and drag would probably take to it faster, but I'd never done it. So I was absolute crap at it. Absolute crap. Oh my God. So janky. But I was already so enamored of it that I couldn't stop.
Going okay.
So yeah, eventually I got to the point where the flower looked like a flower after
Okay.
months and months of practice. And I would henna on anybody who would sit still.
Got you. Anyone that let you try them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Anybody who would be willing to let me do it. And at one point, it was like one of those Oprah Winfrey moments. I was at Valerie's house, and she had a couple of friends over, and oh, do you want henna? And we had mixed up some henna, and we were applying it. And the girl I was working on said, you really need to set up an umbrella down at the Wednesday night market, and you could earn yourself a couple of bucks. And I thought that was
wow.
crazy. But then I thought, maybe
Why not?
it could work. The more I thought about it, the more I liked it.
Okay.
So Valerie and I did that. We applied. We had to get insurance, which that took a while, but we finally figured it out. We got some performers insurance that we could afford. And we set up a little umbrella and offered $5 hennas, these janky little designs that we had painstakingly drawn that we could actually do. And that was the beginning. after that first season, Valerie didn't want to do it anymore. You know, festival work is not for everyone. And I didn't think I would like it because as an artist, you work in your studio. Nobody gets to see my process, right? I don't have to show you how I do what I do unless I want to,
Yeah. Be a
right?
choice.
And it is a nice feeling. I don't know how musicians do it, honestly. Because they oftentimes have to collaborate. And I've had some collaborative experiences, but for the most part, I get to please myself. Very selfish, right? I enjoy pleasing myself,
Hey,
right?
we all got to please ourselves a
Exactly.
little bit.
So I just thought, well, this is great, except that now my canvas is going to be another person. And I had enjoyed the one-on-one of Henna Ink friends. Now these are going to be strangers. And I thought, not sure how I'm going to respond if somebody says, well, could you change it a little this way or that way? I was afraid that I would be like, well, if I thought it needed to be this way or that way, I would have made it this way or that way.
Okay.
I was
Okay. I
afraid it
got
was
you.
not going to go
Okay.
well, right?
Okay.
I was afraid it was going to be a bit of a problem. And,
Uh-oh.
but I discovered that it was the exact opposite. The first time somebody asked me, like, it was very innocuous. So could you put a few dots on this side or, another leaf on that side? I got excited. God, I could do that.
Yeah, you want more?
That would be pretty. And I thought, well, who are you? Oh my God, who are you? And what did you do with Debbie? I don't know if Debbie would ever done this. So that was a kind of a revelation.
Transformation.
And it really was because the collaborative aspect of henna was something that I was really not just enjoying, but it was stretching me. I was learning, it was challenging me in really positive ways. And then as I became more adept at it and became more confident at it over the years, I became more confident when I realized, okay, you know what, that is going to imbalance the design. And I became more confident about expressing that and sort of, giving the option to the client saying, okay, well, if I put the leaves over here that you want, it's going to be heavy on this side now, so it's like a teaching opportunity.
Gotcha. You can explain why.
Exactly.
Yeah.
I'll have to put a little something over on this side now.
Yeah.
So then it'll have that beautiful balance and flow on your hand.
Yeah.
Because now it's something that you also learn that the hand, the foot, the shoulder, whatever, is an element in the design. It's not just like a blank piece of paper you're slapping the design down on. You have to take into account not just the shape of the body part, but the terrain
Gotcha.
of the body part, right? So that was, gosh, it taught me so much. But that was a nice thing that it taught me that I really like people.
Okay.
A lot more than I thought I
I was
would.
gonna say, yeah.
I really did. And I also think too that primarily I'm very fortunate, and most henna artists are very fortunate in that mostly only cool people want henna.
Okay.
People
like
who are
that.
willing to take a chance, willing to be brave enough to allow you to draw on their body. It's kind of an intimate thing.
Yeah.
Right? And to sit very close. I'm practically sitting in their lap.
Okay.
To share, the same air, the same breath.
Same space.
Very close, intimate space.
Yeah.
So it's a type of person that, is willing to risk those kinds of interactions that are so intimate and to walk away with something that I have put on your body. Kind of a big deal in a way,
Definitely. So basically, like a germaphobe would not be most likely.
Probably not. Probably not.
And do you do henna art full time?
I did for probably until the pandemic lockdown. If you recall, the lockdown happened in April.
Okay.
By April, I am booked. I have booked my entire summer. And I am usually by March, I have booked my entire summer. And I am into my bookings. And that year, as I recall, I had, I think, between April and November, 3 free weekends that I was really hesitant to even book. I had booked that many festivals and events, large and small.
Okay.
I'll do almost anything. I'll do the little yoga studio thing, and I'll do the 3-day lemon festival. I'll do all kinds of things. And so when all of that fell, it just all fell like dominoes. Like a lot of people, that actually for me, it was almost 2 years because the festivals didn't come back the second year, right? In
Yeah.
21, people were still very
Like hesitant.
hesitant.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the
Yeah.
festivals that did come back were much smaller. Had the 3-day, many of the 3-day festivals were shrunk to 1, maybe 2 days. And they were much smaller in that we needed another 10 feet of space. We used to be pole to pole with our booths. We needed 10 feet of space between each booth. They didn't want crowds. They didn't want, right? And I had to reconfigure the way I work so that I could sanitize, right?
Gotcha.
And we all wore masks, even though we were outside. I mean, we were all still, doing our due diligence. But it was very interesting. I remember feeling manic
Okay.
the first couple of months because you just watch all of these things fall. And this is my earning time now.
Yeah.
This is
yeah.
when I earn.
It's like the top dollar.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Especially spring. And at the time I was living on my savings and I was watching that evaporate very quickly and panicking about that. And then a friend of mine who is also a freelancer said, apply for the unemployment pandemic, the pandemic unemployment insurance. I thought they're just going to laugh at me. I haven't had a real job, like a regular job in years. I mean, I haven't paid into unemployment insurance.
Yeah.
And she's like, no, they gave me some. They'll give you some. I'm like, well, all they can say is no.
Yeah. Might as well try.
Right? Exactly. Especially since it started to look like we didn't know when this was going to end. And so, yep, they sent me money. And I didn't want to spend it at first. I thought for sure they're going to take it back. Any minute now, I'm going to get a phone call and be like, I'm sorry. If you don't give this back, you're going to jail.
Actually, like, sorry, we didn't want Debi Varvi. We wanted Debi Kari.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
right?
Yeah.
Who the heck knows?
Yeah.
So it took me another month to 3 months to start spending that money because I was terrified. And then I realized I have to because I'm going to run out of money very quickly here. So I started spending that money. And then because I was geared for the season, I started working on the projects that are always on the back burner. So I painted 3 murals in my house. I painted my bathroom. I painted my hallway. I painted every door in my hallway. I have 10 doors in that tiny hallway. Painted them all different colors. I painted my daughter's room. I painted a china hutch. I went nuts.
Okay.
And then
you were still being creative at least.
Oh yeah. Well, I have a studio in my home. I in my winter months, I hermit in the studio and make art in the studio. But when we had gotten into summer and we realized, and I started to see my fall events go down, is when I got depressed. Because I kept telling myself, well, you'll have fall. Fall is never as lucrative as summer and spring, but you'll have fall. You'll still, by the time all this runs out, you'll be able to pick it up. You'll be able to get back to work. You'll be okay. It might be tight, but you'll be okay. And then when all that went away, I think for like a week, I drifted between the bed and the couch.
Okay.
I was just like, this is ridiculous.
Fog state.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Nothing is, up to that point, for 21 years, I had lived this rhythm of my life and had grown the business to that point. And it was like a whole reset that I wasn't prepared for, that I hadn't planned for, like everybody else, nobody planned for this.
Yeah, yeah.
And so after a week, thank God I'm easily bored, I just decided, no. How do you want to come out of this? Eventually it will end. One way or another. Either you'll succumb to the disease because nobody knows what's happening, or we will all come out on the other end. And what do you want to show for it? How do you want to feel about it? So I went back in the studio and I just started creating things that, again, had been on my back burner for years and years. So coming back out into the third year, so we had 2020, 2021. By 2022, things were coming back. Same but different. Everything is always the same but different. And I started to think, because now I'm 67, I will be 68 next year.
Cool.
Right? I know, I'm super happy about it. Don't get me wrong. I'm not sad. Being an old lady is a privilege. But I've been doing this a long time. And now my back has this low grade ache, like much of the time. If I don't do my yoga, my back is not a happy back,
Got you.
right?
We need the
And
back. We need the back.
yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I'm just like, okay, so how do you want to do this? And I have been watching myself choose to shrink my business, kind of a natural progression, whereas before
Okay.
I was growing it actively.
Okay.
I have begun now to shrink it, and very particular about the events that I choose to do, because I can feel my body not wanting to sit in that crouched over position for 3 days in a row and finagle those heavy tubs and that booth and those boxes in and out of the garage and in and out of the car and
Yeah.
and to the festival site. And sometimes you have to truck it from the parking lot to the booth site. And sometimes you get to, you know what I mean? It's a lot of lifting and bending. And I start, as old people do, you start to worry about injury.
Yeah. And you're also listening to your body, which is important.
Exactly. It really is. I mean, I want to always be physically active and physically able. And so I'm feeling the shift.
Yeah.
And I'm feeling the shift. I mean, I will never give up henna completely. Never.
Yeah.
Never. It's just not, it's part of me now. And it has infiltrated all of the art that I do. I love to do color pencil work and art on maps, and I love pen and ink. You can put paint in a cone and apply it to paper, apply it to canvas,
Yeah.
apply it to wood. You can apply henna over paper, over colored pencil work. You can apply henna over paint. You can paint over the dry henna paste. You can do all of these things. So it has infiltrated all of what I do, and the aesthetic of the designs
Ah.
from North Africa, from India, from the Middle East. Those aesthetics have influenced my aesthetic,
Nice.
my visual palette. So it's not like I'm ever going to give up. I
Yeah.
mean, I'll still probably be the 75-year-old crazy
Yeah.
lady with her silly little 5x5 booth in the middle of the street.
Yeah. I think it's just, I think what's important, and I think as we all get older, we start to realize it, is that we just got to know not to, how much our body can take and not to
Yes.
push it. But I think it's always
It's
good to
true.
be active
Oh,
so that we can keep
absolutely.
the thing going.
Absolutely.
And, we speak a lot about henna art, right? For people who may not know what like henna art kind of looks like, can you kind of give us like a brief description of like what henna art kind of is? I know we kind of talked about it, but if you can kind of help us a little bit.
Well, again, we talked a little about the application process of,
Yeah.
Squeezing it onto the skin. If you think of the beautiful designs from India, which really heavily introduced and influenced the psychedelic art of the 60s,
Okay.
right? The flowers, the paisleys, right? They also heavily influenced the Jacobean designs.
What's that?
I call them Frankenflowers.
Okay.
Those really interesting, fantastical florals from the 40s and 50s on textiles that were printed on textiles.
Okay.
Very florid, many layered patterns within petals of flowers and leaves, and really fantastical looking things. The Indian style of design has heavily influenced. It's very ornate. It's very multi-layered. It's very detailed. In Indian henna, you will see birds. You will see the bride and the groom. You will see elephants. You will see fishes. You will see all kinds of things. And so these designs, and they are interconnected using what we call fill. So fill can be a grid, which is, like just a square grid.
Mm-hmm.
And then you can embellish that grid any number of ways. You can do like a little checkerboard grid, like a game board.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can fill it the way you connect them, it can look like the seed of life. It can look like a Moroccan lantern. It can look like the lace of a veil. It can look like anything. And then there's also the spiral connections where you're just filling it with tiny little spirals. Sometimes you make the spiral and you make scallops around the edge of the spiral, and then you fill with that. You just layer upon layer, and you just grow it like a fungus.
Okay.
And so this is like the very Indian style of design. And then the Gulf style is more liquid, more fluid, lots more space between. You'll have ribbons of either design or line, ribbons that are wrapped with other ribbons. You'll have long flowing vines and leaf type things. You'll have a cluster of little flowers here and there, maybe one large flower. Um, and then the Moroccan style, there are several. There's the Fessi style from Fez region, which is very graphic. It's very geometric, lots of triangles, squares, little. They look like little antennas, like a stem with little stems coming out. You'll see. You will see the eye, which everybody calls it
Yes.
the evil eye, but it really protects you from evil. You will see the hand of Fatima or Fatima, which is protection again. Um,
Uh-huh.
and then there's the Saharan designs, which are actually, and Mauritanian as well. They use a resist method, which used to be as simple as wrapping the hand with string, wrapping the hand and fingers with string that crosses over, and then slapping henna all over that.
Whoa.
And then underneath the string, you won't see any henna stain. So you'll wash the henna off, you'll remove the string, and you will have this really interesting pattern of skin with a red henna hand. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But then now they do it with tape, and it's insane.
Oh, they can
With
make
a
it
little
even.
razor blade and some medical tape, they can make it's an extraordinary reverse design,
Okay.
and it's hard to describe, but when you see it, you know it. It's
Gotcha.
just exquisite. And then there's the Sudanese style, which when we didn't discover it, but when we found it or saw it, completely blew us all out of the water because it's so bold and so graphic. Huge, huge elements, solid, beautifully arranged and artfully composed. So bold and so striking, just exquisite. So it traditionally, so-called, it runs the gamut. And then now we have also the modern day henna artists who are fusing designs, who
Oh,
are bringing
interesting.
tattoo flash and festival flash into the mix.
Interesting.
It is evolving,
I
as
was
it
gonna
always has done.
I was gonna ask about that because, well, one of the things that I noticed when I saw the art was that I feel like there's a lot of sacred geometry involved
Oh,
in
yeah.
it.
Can be, yes.
Yeah, and then I was gonna also get into like, um, would you consider yourself as a authentic henna artist? And is there a difference between inauthentic and authentic henna art?
I think it depends upon your definition of authenticity.
Okay.
I feel like I'm authentic in myself. I have I was very lucky with my meeting of henna. I met it again, being completely ignorant. I met it through this innocuous little book that actually did some very decent research. So it
Okay.
wasn't just, I don't mean just or simply, it wasn't solely Indian henna and Pakistani henna. It touched upon the North African henna traditions, and I think it touched upon the Gulf henna traditions and designs. And so that was a wonderful way to be introduced. And then I think, it sparked my curiosity, not just about the designs. I am first and foremost an artist, but also about the culture. Where did these designs come from? Do they have meaning? What do they mean? Do they mean different things to different cultures? And are they expressed in varying ways? How are they used within the cultural context? How are these designs? How is the henna worn within the cultural context? what does it mean? How important is it? Is it, is it available to everyone? Is it available to certain segments of society? Just all of this, and how far back does it go? And you become aware that you are a link. You're simply a link in a centuries-old chain. It's such a privilege and an honor and a responsibility. And so I don't know that I could ever call myself, because it is not a part of my culture. As far as I know, I mean, Italian women, because of trade and travel, may have dyed their hair with henna, but I don't know that they ever adorned their skin with henna.
Yeah.
I don't know that that ever really happened.
Yeah.
So it is not a part of my culture, but it has offered me so much richness and insight into the Hindu, the Muslim, the Indian, the North African, the Middle Eastern traditions and cultures. And I have made so many more friends, and it has opened my mind and my heart to be so much more embracing and curious, and just made my world bigger, and made at the same time, I think it's made me bigger, a bigger person.
Yeah.
And it's been so invaluable in that way. And it's made me a better artist, which, yeah, I can't, it has been so important in my life, so invaluable in my life, in a personal way, in an artistic way, in a cultural way, and in a human way.
Cool. I kind of want to talk about the modern version of it, but I'm really curious about the tools
Oh yeah,
needed.
absolutely.
So what are some of the tools needed? I saw, you said you had to get really close. So are there like special seats that you need? What are some of the tools you need in order to create these things?
Well,
Kind of art.
I think every artist has a different way of working.
Okay.
Primarily Western artists use the cone method of application. There is also a bottle method. It's called a jacquard bottle with a metal tip. It looks very surgical.
Okay.
The metal tip kind of looks like the tips of a mechanical pencil. That
Okay.
little metal cone at the tip of a mechanical pencil,
Yeah.
and then you click it and the little lead comes
Yeah.
out.
Mm-hmm.
That is attached. It's not that. It obviously has to have threads on the inside so it gets screwed on. But it's attached to a very soft, small, about this big, about the length of my forefinger bottle, about as big around as probably a 50-cent piece.
Okay.
Maybe it's smaller, right? And you apply the henna by filling the bottle, squeezing the bottle, dragging the tip across the skin. I never took to the bottle. It's really hard on my hand, but some artists still use it and swear by it. I love the cones. I use a little bit thicker mylar than most people. It's what I'm used to. Again, it's what you're used to.
Yeah.
And you roll up the back of the cone like a tube of toothpaste. Keeps the cone full, essentially. Think about a tube of toothpaste. As you squeeze out the paste, it becomes, like gushy and, lax and flat,
Yes.
Right? So if you roll it up from the back, it becomes tight and full again. And when you squeeze the toothpaste tube a little bit, a lot comes out onto your toothbrush. Same thing with the cone. So by rolling it from the back like a tube of toothpaste, taping it down, making it secure, you are better able to finesse, because a little squeeze creates a lot of action.
Okay.
And it also helps you with hand fatigue, because the looser, the more air you have inside there, the more you have to squeeze to get anything out of the end. Is that making sense?
Yeah, 100%.
Okay. The way I sit, I know plenty of henna artists who bring like a TV tray table, and the client sits across from them, puts the hand on the TV tray table, and then they work, across from each other that way. I have, for 24 years, sat on a low ottoman. I have a very firm pillow that the client sits. I usually use a folding chair so they have some back support. Client sits in the folding chair. I place the firm pillow on their lap. They place their hand on the firm pillow, and then I lean forward. And it's a huge firm pillow, so I can lay my arms on it, rest my arms on it as though it were a tabletop.
Mm-hmm.
and work that way. So the firm pillow brings the hand closer to me, but I'm
Ah,
already sitting lower than the client. So that's the ergonomics of the way I work. Again, everybody's body is different. Everybody's tolerance for certain positions is different.
mm-hmm.
So everybody finds their own best way of working. That is the way. Honestly, I don't know that I could work any other way at this point. I've spent too many hours in that
Yeah,
position. You know.
home.
Yeah, it is. My body knows what it feels like. Um, and then and another interesting thing is that the many of the henna artists of Morocco use syringes to apply the henna.
Oh
If
wow.
you can find them on YouTube, it's really fascinating. I mean, think about it. In Morocco, now you can find plastic, but it's not like you can go to the Dollar Tree or you can go to the
Walmart
Walmart and get
and
yourself some like even freezer baggies and cut them up and make them into
mm-hmm.
cones. You don't have that access. You don't have access to tape
Yeah,
as easily.
yeah.
Medical tape, yes, but not necessarily any kind of other tape. And when you're in a country where money is in short supply, it's really nice to have things you can reuse. So if you can get a hold of a syringe from a pharmacy or from a hospital, you are able to reuse that syringe. And they have a very neat way of making a filed dent using a nail file or some sort of a file in the needle, snapping off the end and using that as your henna application tool and filling it. You can use the plunger as a suction. You unscrew the needle part, use the plunger as a suction and pull the henna up into the barrel of the syringe, rescrew, clean it, rescrew in your needle, and then apply your henna using the syringe as your application tool. And it's reusable. You can use
Ah,
glass or plastic
as much as you
syringes.
want.
Absolutely. So that's a
Ah,
very efficient and very economical way to have a henna tool. And then, like I said, I have another friend who uses primarily her old chip bags and the
like potato
lettuce
chip?
and yeah, potato. You just clean them.
Oh
Oh, cut
wow,
them open and then clean the potato chip bag and then roll it into a cone.
wow. So the cone is basically kind of like the same as like a gun for a tattoo artist. It does all
Yes,
the work.
it's exactly what it is. That's your
Ah,
application method. That is
okay.
because you're applying a paste to the skin. And the paste is the vehicle for the henna powder. And the henna powder has the staining mechanism in it.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
gnarly. And I think you mentioned that, you've been really in depth in this Indian traditional art, West
Mhm.
Africa or North African traditional
Mhm.
art, and they probably mostly use it for like weddings and
Oh,
like
yes.
ceremonies, right?
Absolutely.
And it's been a traditional Indian thing, and I think you mentioned that, you feel honored to keep this tradition alive.
Yes.
Ha-
To be just
A part
another
of it,
link in a chain. Yeah,
yes.
exactly.
Have Have you experienced? Because I know it's like a big thing now. People talk about it. Have you ever experienced, since you've been doing this for almost 3 decades,
Yeah.
what they call cultural appropriation? Have you experienced any of
I've
that?
been very fortunate. I have
Okay.
been very fortunate. I do know plenty of other artists who have been accosted about it, and I think it's an extremely important conversation that we do need to have. We do need to hear the voices that have problems with it, because cultural misappropriation is a horrible tool. It has been used to defraud and to strip people of their place on this planet, of their history, of who they are. And then, of course, they are stripped of their land, of their resources, of whatever the conquering peoples deem as valuable
Yeah.
and what they want. And so, what better way to disenfranchise someone than to make them less human, to disenfranchise them of their history, of their culture, that's their connectivity, that's their glue, that's their place, that's who they are and how they express their being in the world. And it's reprehensible. So we have that in our history.
Yeah.
especially as white people. We have that. I mean, that's our mode of operation.
MO, is that what that stands
Yeah,
for?
pretty much. Yep. So it's very important. It is. It's always important to check yourself. I am a woman of privilege. I mean, I may be old, but I'm a white old woman. So it is something that I am conscious of. And I have done a lot of, I've taken a lot of workshops. I went to Morocco last year and went to Mektoub did it's a retreat for henna artists in
Okay.
Marrakesh, and we were taught by Marrakchi henna artists in country and in the various traditions and styles. And I know so many Indian henna artists and some Afghani, and I've tried very hard to educate myself and to do things with honor and respect and care. Because I don't own any of this. Like I say, I never found henna or discovered henna. I met it. It was already an entity in the world way before I ever came along.
He
And
adopted you.
I like to think so.
Yeah.
We became really good friends,
Yeah.
and she's been so as good as she has been to me. I would like to be as good to her
Yeah.
if at all possible. And so I think it's one of the reasons. I mean, it all happened very organically, but now consciously. I mean, as when you meet henna and you see bridal henna, the artist in you is like, oh my God, I have to achieve that. But it never came to be. I never thought of henna as a way to make money or as a business, or
Yeah.
it sort of just evolved. Like I say, it just
Yeah.
sort of evolved. And I had a business before I knew it. I was 3 years into it before I realized, oh my God, I have clients. I have to, I had insurance because you couldn't do the little market without insurance. But I needed to have like now a P&L and all this stuff. And like, oh my God, I have a business. I don't know how that happened. And it's a business using my skills as an artist. But luckily, I found Henna Tribe when I first got a computer, which was like 2 years in. And I found Henna Tribe. And they were of the like mind of, we're borrowing all of this. We have all of this on loan, and the loan is contingent upon respect and honor and doing our due diligence about history and culture and where it belongs and who it belongs to.
Gotcha.
And so, again, it's hard for me to say authentic. I'm authentic to myself. I'm
Yeah.
authentic as a person.
I like that.
But I don't know that I'm authentic as a henna artist. I'm a festival artist, and I don't do that's what I started to say. I don't do brides for that very reason. I know several impeccable bridal artists in the Southland, and I love to refer them. And at first, it wasn't a choice. It was just, festivals are available, and now it is a choice. It's a choice that being a bridal artist, it is a skill set that I do not have. I mean, I can do it,
Yeah.
but I have to, it has to be in the forefront of my mind. I've gotten henna from bridal artists, and it's a joy to behold. It is like watching water flow through a brook. It's so natural. It's so effortless. It's got this rhythm and this elegance. And I'm not that.
Gotcha.
I might have a little of that when I do the festival work. I try
Yeah.
very hard to be true to the traditional motifs because I love them so much. But when I first started doing it, nobody wanted the traditional motifs. They wanted tattoo flash. They wanted kanji. Lord knows what I wrote on people.
Okay. Oh, wow.
You know what I mean?
I have a stomach ache.
Yes.
It's so pretty.
Or your duck as an umbrella. I don't know what
Yeah.
at best that could, otherwise it might have been something vulgar. I don't know what
That
I wrote
part.
on people. Is it in your ignorance? What do you know?
Yeah, you're just feeling the need.
You're feeling the need and you're making a couple of bucks and you're so excited. And then you realize, oh, and then I finally met somebody who actually speaks Chinese, and she was like, yeah, it's not what you think it is. You think, yeah, that symbol means fortune. But when you pair it with this other symbol, it doesn't mean fortune anymore.
My fortune was taken away.
Yes.
Yeah.
You can't do that. It's not the same. Like,
No.
oh my God, I'm such a moron. So,
Yeah. So Debbie, you said that you've been to Morocco, right?
Yeah.
So when you've been to these places, like what's some of the biggest takeaways that you've gotten from the experience of going to these places?
The richness.
Of the
The
culture?
richness of the culture, of the people, the kindness. I have to say, Morocco, I mean, I've traveled all over the world. First with my family, and then as a henna artist, it has afforded me a lot of travel. And I was not prepared for the friendliness. I really wasn't. I mean, I think of myself as a friendly person, and now that I'm used to Western culture in California, I feel like Californians are relatively friendly, not like in the South.
Okay, sounds a little different.
South's extremely different.
What about the Southern hospitality?
That's exactly it. They're extreme. I mean,
Okay,
my
in a good
father,
way.
in very good
Okay,
way,
got you.
very good way.
Got you.
I mean, when my father lived in Florida and I would go visit him, the first time that I went as an adult, I walked into a grocery store and I was just grabbing a couple of things for the house, and the woman greeted me like I was somebody she knew. I thought, oh, she thinks I'm somebody else. Oh, hi, how are you? And I was like, oh hi, I'm fine. By the third time that happened, I was like, oh Christ, this is just how these people are. They're just super duper friendly and
Hmm.
nice. And then Morocco, it's the same way. They are so engaging. They are they are eager and excited to talk to you and ask you questions and tell you about themselves and where do you come from, and oh yes, and how long have you lived there, and why are you here, and they'll make you mint tea. I drank gallons
Mm.
of mint tea when I was there, and it's quite the little ritual, and it was almost exhausting. They were so friendly. They were so kind. They were so wonderful. And everybody, everybody I met was an artisan. They all were doing artistic things.
Got you.
The Medina, which is the old city, is a rabbit warren of artisans and artists
Got
and
you.
craftspeople. And it is the air they breathe and the life they live. And the levels of skill just make your eyes cross. It's just
Yeah.
extraordinary. And it's just everybody. It's all your neighbors and all the people that you shop with, and from the food to the metalwork to the tannery to the weaving and the shoemaking and the glassware, and it's just,
Endless.
oh, the richness is extraordinary, and the richness of the people in their way.
That's amazing.
Oh, it was such an extraordinary experience. I hope to go back. I hope to go back.
You will. I
Yeah.
think so. I believe so. We're gonna get her a ticket, right, folks?
Right? Oh, I
Uh,
highly recommend it. Oh my God.
so as you've been doing this for so long, how long? You've been doing this for so long. How long? You've been an artisan yourself in the henna work. How long do you think an average piece takes to make?
That's such a good question. It's so funny because it's like the first thing that people ask is, so how much is this design and how long does it take to do? And that's one of the hardest questions to answer, even though I've been doing it so long. I can say this simple design will take me 10 minutes or so because I like to take my time. And I do the whole thing. I will prep the skin with a mixture of primarily aloe vera juice and a few drops of eucalyptus oil,
Okay.
which dries the skin and cleans off any lotions or um, sunscreens that might act as a barrier. And then it's just a nice moment to be able to touch a person. Here I'm going to touch you now.
Hmm.
And then to talk to them about what they want to see today, what they want to be adorned with, what they want to wear. They've usually picked out a design, but I don't copy anymore. I mean, I will, and I can certainly. I spent 5 years initially copying faithfully, but now everything is my quote is the same but different. So
Okay.
we're such visual beings that I have the designs, mostly photographs in the books, and some that are actually henna on paper. And I know now what you like, and we can talk about it. What do you like about it? Do you like that it goes down the finger? Do you like this or that about it? Do you like that particular flower? Would you like to replace it with a different flower? Do you like that particular fill? Would you like to replace it with a different fill? Um, and so it does take me a good 10 minutes to do a simple flower.
Okay.
And then depending upon what you've chosen, it can take me upwards of 20 minutes to an hour, depending on how much coverage and how detailed the design is, how much shading is involved, and, that kind of thing. Um,
Cool.
I
And it varies from
it really does, varies
Okay.
from person to person and moment to moment. The nothing is perfect. When I was younger, I was faster and more accurate because, I didn't have to deal with, I have a little tendonitis, I have to keep ahead of that, and, the stiff back and all that kind of stuff. But I never was much into the so-called treat 'em and street 'em. I tried
Okay.
that, especially after
Just
I
like
got.
come in and get out type
Yeah,
of thing?
exactly. That's what
Okay.
we call it, treat 'em and street 'em. Get them into
Gotcha.
the chair, get them out of the chair, volume. Right?
Okay.
It's a business, and I had to work really hard to balance the art and the business, because once I got the computer, then now I was working in a vacuum. I had some books, but I didn't really know how to go about being a henna artist on the street.
Can we keep that in front of you?
Oh, I'm so
There you
sorry.
go.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I didn't know how to go about being a henna artist on the street. So I was kind of making it up as I went along. And then I got a computer, and all of a sudden now I'm being informed by all these other people. And you know how people are? They're like, well, this is the way we do it, and it's very effective, and it's very efficient, and it's very, profitable. And I'm like, oh, wow, that's tremendous. And then they start to say things like, well, if it takes you longer than 15 minutes to do this design or 10 minutes to do that design, then it's taking you too long. Oh, it's taking me too long. So I started to reconfigure my priorities according to what they were doing that was working for them. And I became very unhappy, very dissatisfied. Yeah, I was probably making a little more money, but I was getting more frustrated
Gotcha.
because my focus was on the clock and on the volume, not on the art. Now, granted, I can't do these events and not make money, not make a profit.
Yeah.
But then I'm more concerned with balance, and so I had to find my balance. I had to
Yeah.
find the amount of time that I was happy with spending with these people. I had to be happy. Had to go home tired and happy.
I
And
like that. Tired and happy.
tired and happy. Tired and with a pocket full of money and unhappy is still unhappy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And for me, everybody's different, but for me, I had to realize that my way of doing henna was not going to be for everyone. You're at a festival. You might want to get a little flower design and then go ride some rides, get yourself a hot dog, go home. You may not want to wait 30 minutes, an hour for your henna design, and you may not want to spend 20, 30 minutes with me. That's okay. I had to be okay with that. I had to learn that people were going to walk away because I'm just not for them.
Yeah.
It's okay. There's probably a henna artist down the way or around the corner that's going to absolutely do exactly what you want.
Yeah.
And you should go give her your money and your business. And I'm perfectly happy with that.
It's so interesting that you mentioned that, because I heard that I think it was George Gonzalez that kind of mentioned it, which is kind of like one of the good thing about business is knowing who's not your customer.
Yes. So smart and so true. And it was a process for me to learn that, because watching people, you start to be informed by this other group, and oh my gosh, to be included in that group, I've learned for a long time, to be included in that group and to be accepted by them when you've been like in your own little bubble for so long, felt really good. I found my people.
Yeah.
Right? I found my clan, I found my tribe. And then you want their approval and you want their acceptance and you want to belong. And then I started trying that and it wasn't fitting. And I was becoming unhappy. And so I had to reevaluate and relook at and be okay with these people walking away and taking their money with them. You know what I mean? I had to sit there and say, well, really, were they my customers? It's okay if they're her customers.
Yeah.
That's fine, because they're not happy waiting for me. And I'm not happy slapping this on and burning through these people this fast. I'm just not happy. I want to make some art. I want to take some time. I want to sit with this person, because there's this weird subtle energy exchange as well. And I'm so focused on the art, and you think, well, I'm getting all of this satisfying energy off of this really pretty piece that I just made. But you're also getting a lot of satisfying energy from the person you're sitting with. And I kind of realized that it was a bit of a moment when I had this great client in my chair. We're having this wonderful moment. Sometimes you're just quiet and breathing almost in unison. In fact, you are. I catch myself like in a little tricky place holding my breath. And then when I breathe again, they breathe at the same time and we look at each other and giggle like, oh, wait. We were breathing in unison. Yeah. Wow. And so sometimes it's just as simple as that. Sometimes you're having a lovely little conversation, a little chat.
Like symbiotic.
Very symbiotic. And she got up to go, and I tend to rub my hands together when I'm having a good time, or like, this is a little nervous energy thing that I do. And I went to myself, oh, that was a good hit. And I went, oh.
Crack days are back.
I was like, it was a hit of energy from this person. It wasn't like, oh, that was a great design. I'm really proud of it, because I have that moment too. But it was that unbidden that thought, oh, that was a good hit. It was a good hit of energy from that person. That was very nourishing. That was very resonant with that person. And I had to factor that in, that I can't deny myself that. It's really one of the really important reasons why I love doing festivals and events and the henna art, is that you get this lovely interaction, this lovely, subtle interchange of energies.
And I think, and you kind of answered what I was going to get into, which is about like the spiritual connection that is involved. And I think you kind of answered that for me, because I think there is like a spiritual thing that's happening. It's like spiritual art, spiritual connection. It's just like, I feel like it's unavoidable to have some type of spiritual thing with that. And I think you kind of mentioned this, but are the designs like, kind of like when you go into a tattoo, they have a book and it's like, hey, you could choose this heart, choose that. Or is there also an option where it's like, hey, I want you to, can you do this thing? And you can just kind of like freehand something.
Oh yeah. In the industry, it's called artist choice.
Okay.
But even so, because I know it's temporary and you're only going to wear it for a week to 10 days, but I want you to love wearing it. Okay. And so even when people do sit, and they often sit down and say, because, the tattoo industry has now permeated all walks of life. And I love it when people say, well, I let the tattoo artist do whatever they want. And I'm like, that's a beautiful thing, because you get to lean into your strengths. Right? I get to lean into my strengths. I also love to be challenged, so that's a good thing. But I do want you to wear, even if it's only for like a week to 10 days, something that you delight to wear. And sometimes I'm pretty good at reading. You'll get these feelings. I've learned to trust these feelings of, like, I get a little image in my head, like, oh, I know what I want to do for you. But I've been wrong before.
Okay.
All right. And that's awkward. So right?
Just a little bit?
A little bit awkward.
Okay.
Oh, so you don't like flowers.
Gotcha.
I had thought to ask.
But you said artist choice, so I went.
Exactly. But I honestly don't want that exchange. I don't want that. You know what I mean? I want you to love. And with the best of intentions, oftentimes people think, yeah, you do what you want, especially if they've been watching you work for 30, 40 minutes an hour, right? I like your work. Okay. And then they see the books. Yeah, I like your style. Okay. But I've learned to ask a lot of questions. So what are you feeling today? How are you feeling about it? How do you want to be adorned? Do you want a lot of times because if they still don't know, a lot of times a good place to start is, would you like it to run down your finger? Would you like it to be on the back of your hand, the inside of your arm, run up across your wrist? Where do you want to be adorned? Just some way to get your toe in the door and to get them talking about it. What are you feeling today? How, are there any symbols, any things that you are drawn to? Or is there anything in the book that you particularly liked? We don't have to do it. We're not going to do it. Yeah. Even if you tell me you love this design, it's going to be the same but different. So let's just talk. And so that's why the cleaning of the skin, it gives me a moment to talk with you, gives me a moment to touch you, make a little bit of a connection, make you hopefully relax a little bit so we can talk and you can tell me without fear what you're thinking, because I'm also very honest.
Got you.
I mean,
process.
if I'm really bad at the big cats. Been working on it, but unless you want it to look like Tony Tiger or something,
It's gonna be tough.
so if I'm feeling strong, again, it's a moment to moment thing. If I'm feeling strong, I might, look a little something up on my phone. Sometimes I'll make a quick sketch. I'll go with it. But if I'm not feeling that strong or that inspired, I'll be honest. I want you to walk away with something that we both feel good about. I think it's really important. And
agree.
so it's better to say, and I've never had anybody be angry or frustrated with me for saying, baby, you're not getting that today. How about a nice flower?
I really liked how, you understand that you need to get in depth with your client to make sure that, hey, it's kind of like investigating to say, okay, let me make sure, instead of just assuming what they want, let me kind of get a deeper way into understanding who they are, and maybe I can get something that will actually fit how they're feeling right now.
Absolutely.
And surround them, and I saw that you had gone to like Germany and done workshops over there as well, right?
Actually, Hungary and Australia and London a few times.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
I was close, I guess. Hungary's close to it's Germanic language.
Yes, it is. Yes.
I'll
Yeah.
get that way. And so, how was their take on henna art, and was it different between how Americans look at henna art?
I think it's really interesting. I think it's more different the way people of India and Morocco, people of, the cultures that celebrate with henna historically, it's more different for them than it is for anybody from Europe or the West.
Can you explain?
From my limited experience,
Okay.
we tend to make things far more complicated than they need to be. We tend to bring our corporate style. I have it's a very woo-woo kind of take on corporate culture and creative culture and all that stuff.
We're with you,
right?
yeah.
So we bring a corporate culture with, without even realizing a corporate culture sensibility to everything we do, essentially. And so hanging out with my friends from India who do henna, they always look at me with this expression of, why are you so either upset or excited about what? The essential oil, whether you have it or you don't, or the quality of the powder. Like, it's henna, it'll stain. Mix it up, put it on the skin. What are you getting so excited about? Like, oh, I got Bulgarian, lavender oil. All right. If you got a little, eucalyptus oil, which is the most affordable essential oil, throw that in there. If you don't, just mix it up. It'll be fine.
Yeah, keep it going.
Right? What are you getting so worked up about? They just think it's hysterical.
Got you.
Right?
They're like, damn Americans.
Exactly. Why are you making this so hard? It doesn't have to be so hard.
Got you.
And
this is like a Jersey accent.
Yeah, my family comes from New York. We're all immigrants from New York.
Okay. Oh, I like it.
So that, for me, that's been the difference. And something too that kind of harkens back to the cultural appropriation. When I had been online and been part of Henna Tribe for at least a year, maybe 2 years, which was initially, and always was, they managed to maintain their accessibility and their creativity and their honor of the cultures, because we had all kinds of people that were part of that community.
And Henna Tribe is like an online community?
Yeah. It was a forum.
Okay.
Henna Tribe forum. And yet, again, corporate culture reared its ugly head, and it was very interesting to me. The question of copyright, because all of a sudden we see these women from primarily Pakistan using photos that we have posted on this forum. I mean, this is I think when MySpace was happening. So this is a long time ago. But people are starting to post photos online and on forums and things. So they're beginning to circulate on the web. And these women from Pakistan are pulling these beautiful Western designs because henna is also a fashion statement, right? So fashion changes, and you always want what's new and fresh and cute and interesting. They were pulling these, designs from the American girls and being like, isn't this beautiful? And then I got all these American girls up in arms, like, you can't use my pictures, you can't use my designs. These Pakistani girls coming back at them, what do you mean your designs? These aren't your designs. Oh, yes, they are. I did them with my hand. Of course they're my designs. And I'm looking at this, and at the time, again, because I was part of this group, I had been accepted, and these are my people, and this is my tribe, and I was all excited. It happened to one of my friends, and she contacted me and said, would you email her? There's her email on her site. She's blocked me. Will you email her and tell her she can't do this anymore? And this is my friend, and I'm like, okay, I guess I can do that. And so I crafted this, what I thought was a very polite request. These belong to my friend, these photos that you're using on your site. And, she didn't offer, give you permission. You didn't ask for permission. And I remember so distinctly when I hit send, instead of feeling, well, good, I helped my friend, I felt like, oh God, that was awkward and embarrassing. I wish I hadn't done it. And I thought, but you're helping your friend. You're helping, you love her. And I thought, but it didn't feel right. There was something wrong about it. So I had to examine what felt wrong about it. And so I did a little meditation on it, and I did a little research on it, what I could find online, and I realized it's a total clash of cultures because we don't own these designs. And we are a link in a centuries-old chain. These designs, these paisleys, these little flowers, these vine and leaf motifs, these fills were created centuries ago by artists who are now dust. And we don't, it's sort of like when the whites came from Europe and said, well, we own this land now. And the Indians looked at them and went, what do you mean you own the land? The land owns itself. And they're saying the same thing. Nobody owns these designs. And if anybody does, we're Pakistani. If anybody does, what are you talking about? You little whitey girl. You don't own these. What do you mean you own these designs? And it made me think, I may feel like I'm a clever, creative little artist. There are millions of clever, creative, resourceful women who came before me. And if I think I'm the only one that ever made this paisley just so and filled it with this little heart and these little designs and made a little frou-frou around it, I mean...
Kind of the privilege thing coming in again?
Don't you think? I mean, that's a little bit like, excuse me. I mean...
Hello.
I think I'm special, but nobody's that special.
Yeah.
I just, really.
Yeah.
So... I vowed to never, ever do that mess again because that was the most uncomfortable. And to this day, I'm still embarrassed about having done that. Thankfully, she never got back to me. Thankfully, she ignored me. I mean, please, and I deserved it because nobody, I think it's what also has helped shape my feeling about corporate culture and creative culture and copyright because there are egregious forms of, copyright infringement. But as an artist, art is anarchy. You got to be able to do it all. You got to have access to everything. You got to have the freedom to create. I copied faithfully for 5 years before I felt like I had the muscle memory and the library of elements in my head that I could pull from at will and create what I wanted to see. Doesn't mean it's original, right? There's still the elements.
The foundation.
The foundational elements, right?
Yeah.
And I'm mixing and matching them, sort of like a puzzle, in what I like to think is a new way, but God knows.
Gotcha.
Centuries have gone by. Millions of artists have gone by. I dare say you're going to find a dozen at the minimum. Looks just like that.
It's your own expression of all the foundational information.
It is. And it's true to me and it's authentic to me and that's lovely. But, I don't know how original it is. And copying for artists, I don't know how else you learn. I don't know how else to create the muscle memory. I don't know how else to collect the library. I don't know how else to do it. You don't wake up with these skills.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. You don't read a book and acquire the skills. You have to do to acquire the skills.
Gotta practice.
And without copying, you got nothing. You have to have the freedom to be able to copy.
Gotcha.
And so when people copy me, plus it's like a no effort way to pay it forward. I don't have to do squat.
Gotcha. And it's a form of flattery, they say.
Truly is.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, if you allow it, if you celebrate it and embrace it, you get so much back.
Yeah.
So many times that people are, I mean, it's happened a few times where people copy and I'm looking at it going, did I do that? Doesn't happen often, but it does happen. And it's kind of like, holy cow, that's mad skills. But usually there's something different that you're like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to make a note of that. I'm going to make a little sketch of that. So you get it right back. Get it right back because they'll change a little something, something.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you get it right back. It's this resonant, like, ripple effect of information and inspiration, and it just keeps going.
Yeah.
But if you try to chain it up and pin it down, it becomes static and stagnant, and it's not going to grow. It'll have no life of its own.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Life. It gets life when you give it freedom.
Yes.
Yeah.
Becomes its own self.
Yeah.
It's so funny. I did this back piece for this woman, and I was very proud of it at the time. And it was this tree woman, and it had all these symbols around it, and it was a whole back piece. And it was before I started watermarking, and it had gone out into the world, gotten like almost over 100,000 likes and thousands of shares. And somebody else brought it back to me because it's very much my style. And they were like, isn't this your work? And I'm like, oh my God. Oh my God. It went out all by itself.
Yeah.
It went out. It made friends all by itself.
Yeah.
It made connections. It did more than I could ever.
Yeah. The work speaks for itself.
Yeah. It didn't really matter that nobody knew it was me. It took like on a life of its own. It was the weirdest thing. I had to sit with it for a minute and look at it and go, oh my God, never gotten that kind of attention all by myself. If I hadn't let it go, I mean, I still watermark, but I want people to be able to find me. If they like the work, then they can say, oh, Henna Crone, or oh, Debi Varvi Studio.
Yeah.
And then they can find me, and then maybe they'll hire me or purchase something. That'd be great. But I don't really worry if people share stuff that I've done, share photos or copy my stuff. I don't care.
Yeah. It's like a blessing. It's still a blessing in
It
disguise.
really is.
And it's called henna body art, right?
Thank you. Yes.
So can it go anywhere on the body?
It can to a degree. It's primarily traditionally done on hands and feet.
Okay.
Because you have the most skin there. As I
Okay.
said, it's going to penetrate your epidermis just to the epidermal line. It doesn't go to the bloodline. I mean, you got blood in your epidermis, but you know what I mean. It's not like a tattoo that goes to the bloodline and becomes permanent. It exfoliates away. So you need the thicker skin.
Okay.
Hands and feet are more calloused. They stain darker. The darker the color, the deeper the blessing.
Okay.
Right?
Almost like the blacker the berry, the sweeter the juice.
That's right. There you go. See how it works? And so my rule of thumb is that the farther you get from the hands and feet, the less color you're going to get and the less duration of stain you're going to get.
Okay.
So palms get the darkest color. Backs of the hands, a little less dark. Anything crossing the wrist, a little less dark. Crossing the elbow, upper arm, a little less dark. Chest, neck, and face is pretty much pointless. You'll get color, but I used to love to get my forehead done. I love a little widow's peak. And a friend of mine, Jen Pa, he did a beautiful little widow's peak for me, and I babied it. I washed around it, patted it dry, put lotion on it every day, and in 3 days, the tip of it wiped right off. I was like,
Okay.
oh God, it's already gone. It didn't even last 7 days. It was like so sad. The hairline lasted a little longer. But yeah, I figure I'm taking your money. I want you to have nothing makes me happier than people say, "Oh my God, it got so dark," and "Oh my God, it lasted so long." I love that. So I tend, if I do upper arms, I tend to implement bolder designs. You can
Okay.
do like
Ah.
finer, more spidery lines on hands, especially palms and fingers and the backs of the hands. You can do like finer work. Bold work is sensual and beautiful. Not saying, I don't love doing it, but I do tend to work bolder on upper arms. The more dye molecules you can, like introduce to the skin, the happier they're going to be.
So no tramp stamps, right?
I have done them. We also called them ass hats. I've done them, but I will say, there was this one year that they were just so popular. I had people faint in my booth 3 times because they locked their knees.
Oh, wow.
If you've ever seen anybody faint in choir or in camp, like band camp, it's because they locked their knees and it somehow messes with your circulation or something.
Interesting.
And I got to the point where I realized, because they don't know they're fainting.
Wow.
I'd be working on them and that you'd feel this sway. It's a certain sway. And I would just drop everything and jump up and help them to the ground.
Because you already know what's going to happen.
It's going. The first time it happened, I had a heart attack. I was just like, "What happened?" And then the second time, I was just like, "Oh God, it's happening again." And the third time, I was like, "Oh Christ!" So I just dropped everything and helped them to the ground.
Oh,
and
Christ.
Yeah, I was like, please no. It's just not good for business when people are fainting in the henna booth.
It's like, what's in that henna art?
Exactly.
Poison? Toad poisoning?
Exactly.
Wow.
So, and it was so funny because I would tell people, it got to the point where, because normally you have them stand equally on both feet. And I'm like, no. I want you standing on one foot. I want your hip at a slant. I want one knee bent. I'll figure it out. I'll figure it out. And if you need to shift, you let me know and you can shift. I don't care.
Wow.
But you are not fainting in my booth. And if you faint in my booth, it's going to cost you double.
I like it.
And it's going to be messed up. And then nobody fainted after that. But
I like it. Hey, I like it. I like it.
But it got to be like, I don't like being afraid. I really don't. So I just
I like it. I don't know why. It just almost seems like sacrilegious to put such like sacred geometry on someone's ass hat, you call it?
Yeah, call it
an
an
ass
ass
hat.
Well, that's another thing that you learn the more you learn about the culture. I learned that you're not supposed to do the Om symbol on the left hand or below the, I think it's below the hips or the waist, actually, really. You're not supposed to do the Om symbol.
Why? Is there a reason why?
The left hand is considered unclean. When you live in a
The
country,
left hand is clean. Yes. Unclean,
well, when you live in a country where there's no toilet paper,
yes.
there's water, and you're clean, but it's just, you're not supposed to have, a religious symbol on your left hand because you're cleaning yourself with that.
Your left hand. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And not below the waist either. So but of course I didn't know that until I knew it. And then I know it. So, right. So you're always learning and you're always growing. But there are certain symbols and things that are, you have to have respect.
Do you know what the Om symbol stands for?
Mm-hmm. It's the it is the sound of the universe being born. It is the Om, and there's the It's it's that connectivity, that hum.
Yeah.
The hum of life.
I always find it cool because I think like when people are like looking for thoughts, they'll go,
There it is.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool. And some people say, when you say you sound not intellectual. You seem like you're looking for your trains of thoughts, but then it's like, hey, in this ancient culture, Om or is actually part of the universe.
Mm-hmm.
And so
you are searching for your thought.
Yes.
You're searching for your meaning. You're searching.
Through the universe.
Exactly.
Through yourself as a temple.
Yeah, you're pulling it in. Yeah.
And I think some people, going back to henna art, some people may think that it may not be used for certain type of skin tones like myself, a melanated person. but I think I've seen it in people like in Ethiopia and things like that.
Oh,
So
absolutely.
is it?
North Africa, absolutely.
Yeah,
People of color, India, North
yeah,
Africa, Pakistan, the Middle East,
yeah.
of course. I mean, henna it's a translucent stain, and it's going to take your skin tone and deepen it in the red tones. And so what's really interesting, I mean, granted on white skin, there's a little bit more contrast, but I can get like a black cherry color on my palms. You can get a black cherry color on your arms. I'm never going to get a black cherry color on my arms. You know what I mean?
Okay.
Because I'm starting too white. Well, maybe on my age spots I could probably do.
That'd be interesting.
It's always very interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, it stains the darker skin beautifully.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there is no
Yeah,
like, okay, people more melanated people cannot get it. Everybody can get it.
absolutely. It's for
Gotcha.
everyone. And it comes from cultures of people
Of
with
darker
color.
skin, right?
Yeah,
Of darker skin,
absolutely.
right? Just to
Yeah.
clarify for everybody who may not think, and now you know you can actually go and get
Oh,
henna art as well.
absolutely.
'Cause
Yeah.
I think people might be or misinformed and not see other people,
Oh,
especially like
yeah.
in the States, right? It's not a big
Oh,
thing in the
absolutely,
States.
especially in the States. And it's true because, they see it on my skin and it just looks like your skin color. And they're like, well, it's never going to show up on me. I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, I understand that. But it's not going to look like this on you. It's going to look much darker and much more rich on you. Yeah.
And that's the clarification we need to know.
Yeah.
Do you give private lessons?
I have done. I prefer to teach. I mean, I really do love teaching at conferences because it's just so immersive. You're not just getting my take. And when I teach at conferences, I teach what I'm strong at. I teach what I'm known for. I'm certainly not teaching bridal henna classes at conferences. I'm not teaching Moroccan henna at conferences. I'm teaching not tattoo flash. I'm teaching primarily henna, like festival, sort of festival flash. I do like a Frankenflower class. I do birds in henna class, but it's with a more modern sensibility, a more modern aesthetic. I have taught beginning classes and I have taught privates. I do. But it is, I don't know, I just love the idea of conferences because you're getting from a variety of sources.
Okay.
The thing about henna is too, I mean, I'm happy to share everything I know. I mean, again, I've learned, I try to keep my practice true to the original practices as much as I know, because I didn't grow up with it. But henna is so personal. It's almost like, my mother's spaghetti sauce is the best, like, but you're like, my mother's spaghetti sauce is the best. I'm like, right? We need a sauce off.
That's how Gangs of New York started.
It probably is. Absolutely. Spaghetti sauce is the heart of it all. So, it's very volatile, but that's one of the beautiful things about henna. As long as you're using natural ingredients, if you've got fresh, well sifted powder, you're going to get a stain. You could just use water and you're going to get a lovely stain. The rest of it is all fairly ancillary. I mean, it's nice to have the sugar when you're living somewhere very dry. You're going to get a little bit better result. I like using the lemon juice because, I make small batches, but I have to freeze some of the henna because it is very perishable. There's no preservatives in it. There's nothing artificial or synthetic in it. And so the cone will last, 3-4 days if you're not refrigerating it. No, I say 2-3 days if you're not refrigerating it, depending on the ambient temperature. In the refrigerator, maybe 5 days. In the freezer, about a year. But I make small batches. So I think the lemon juice helps preserve it a little bit.
That makes sense.
That
makes
so
sense.
I use like a little mixture of lemon juice and water. And then the essential oils, the essential oils with terpenes will bump it into the browner spectrum. But they're not necessary. I mean, some people even you do have to be careful with essential oils. Some are not meant for the skin.
I've heard about that.
Yeah, you have to be careful. It's not, I mean, some people do it for aromatherapy purposes, and there's nothing wrong with that as long as you're sure that it can rest on the skin.
Yeah.
I like to use lavender because it does have the terpenes, but it puts me to sleep. So I do add a little CASHAPP, which is of the Melaleuca family, like tea tree.
Okay,
Not
the
as
tea tree.
funky as tea tree. It's a
Okay.
little spicier
A
than tea
little
tree.
funky.
Yeah, tea tree is a little funky.
I like.
So I mean, I've used it, but I like Melaleuca. I'm sorry, I like CASHAPP because it's a little spicier. So the mix of the two has a slightly floral but spicy scent.
Okay.
Because lavender puts me right to sleep. It
Got
just
you.
makes me feel like I need a nap.
Nap time. Nap
So
time.
my friend Jen uses nothing but lavender, and I love it. But man, I always feel like I could use a nap.
Yeah, it's nap time. Nap time. Debi, outside of, all this beautiful henna work that you've done and you do, what's something that you're willing to share
Yeah.
that most people, maybe even close people, don't know about you?
Oh, golly, I don't know. Pretty much an open book. I don't know. Can't imagine what people don't know about me. Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better? Is that better? Okay, sorry. First I was too far. Now I'm too close. Okay. I don't know. I do love. I think I'm transitioning into being a full-time artist. Eventually, and I do love to do full, art, all the different kinds of art. But I think people know that about me because I do have, the Debi Varvi studio on Facebook now, and I have for several years now. That I'm an Air Force brat. I don't know if everybody knows that about me. And I grew up, on air bases. So I don't know if everybody knows that about me, but we've talked about that.
We
here
did talk
now.
about that.
So we did. I like to eat, but I think that's readily apparent. I love dogs. My daughter lives with me, but then my friends know all of that. I like murder mysteries.
Uh-oh. A woman that likes murder mysteries.
I
What a
do
shock.
I know, right? I know, that's stunning. I understand. I do. I love murder mysteries.
Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. I like to read fantasy books.
Okay, you like fantasy books?
Yeah.
Like Harry Potter and stuff like
Oh,
that?
yeah.
Okay.
Funny, I'm a Tolkien girl because,
Uh-huh. Tolkien.
when I was coming up, Tolkien was the thing. Frodo lives and all that. But my nieces got me into Harry Potter. Oh,
Okay.
Debbie, you've got to read it. Yeah, I'll read it. I just figured it was going to be a pale copy of Tolkien, and then
Ooh.
right? I know.
Got you.
It totally got me. I bought one in an airport. I forgot my book, and I was like, all right, I'll buy this one. I think they were already on book 4 or 5, so it was in paperback. I'm like, okay, I'll buy the first one. Man, I was hooked.
Got you.
Yeah, totally got
Like
me.
no Tolkien related.
No.
No Tolkien related.
Ooh, it's fantastic. Yeah, it is. It's a fantastic series.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
So fantasy, I guess we'll go with fantasy as being something that most
Yeah.
people may not know.
Yeah.
Debi, can you tell us all what current projects you're working on?
Absolutely. I have one more gig for henna this year. It's going to be a belly dance event in Claremont. And then I am working on, I'm about to start working on a dry point, because I've been taking print classes, dry point etching project with Denise Kramer is my instructor, and she's got me roped into this project. Have you ever done an exquisite corpse exercise?
No, I don't think I've done anything with corpse as an exercise.
It's very interesting. So we're doing an exquisite corpse project for a gallery show, and exquisite corpse, it's a really fun exercise if you want to try it with your kids, or if anybody wants to try it with their friends. You need at least 2 people. You accordion fold a piece of paper, right? Accordion fold,
Okay.
zigzag back and forth into 3 equal sections, and one person makes a bit of a drawing on fold it up on one of the sections, but you have to, on the folded part of that section, you have to have the drawing go off the page in at least 3 places, and mark that edge in those 3 places, because then you're going to fold it so that your drawing is hidden, but the connecting side is visible. And then you hand it to the person who hasn't seen what you've drawn and sees the ticks of the 3 places. So they have to start their drawing, and it has to be attached in those 3 places, and then they have the other side folded as well. So they have to exit on the other side in at least 3 places. It can be more, but at least 3.
Mm-hmm.
Make that tick. Then you could, if you have a third person, you fold it so they can't see either of those 2 drawings, and the last end is showing. They see their 3 ticks, and then they continue the drawing. Then you unfold it and see what you've got.
It's like a blind.
It's always interesting. It's always bizarre. You can come up with a subject. You can say, well, we're going to draw, I don't know, something floral, or we're going to draw a person, or we're going to draw an animal.
Mm.
And each of you, and it doesn't really even matter. As long as it exits and enters at those ticks, it becomes one piece.
Wow, it's a blind collaboration.
It is. And so that's what we're doing. We're going to do 3. It's going to be Beauty and the Beast, but not Disney. They haven't come up with a title.
Okay.
It's like Beauty and the Beast, but not your Disney Beauty and the Beast. And so there are going to be 3 plates, and the plates are going to be interchangeable, but they all have to come off on those, those points. So they all interconnect. So they're going to be able to mix and match the plates to create different
designs,
different pieces.
How exciting.
So, that's going to be an exciting project. And I'm also working on a tarot card for Hive Gallery. It's a project they do every year. And I had a show, I was part of a group show there. And so they invite people who participate to do a tarot card. And I'm going to do the Hermit. So I started that the other day.
What's the Hermit?
The Hermit is, I don't do tarot.
Okay.
My daughter does, and my granddaughter does, but I have looked it up, and it has certain meanings. And there are certain symbols on the card, but I get to do my own interpretation.
Okay, of the design.
Yeah, of the design. So it'll be a hermit, but he'll have some of the same symbols, but I'm going to add a few different ones and play around with it. So
number one, I want to say congratulations for being able to become a full-time artist. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
It's not easy.
It's not,
but
but
congratulations.
I feel very fortunate. I feel extremely fortunate.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not something that you're ever prepared for in school, which is a shame.
Yes.
But I will say this, that we now have the University of YouTube.
Yeah, the YouTube University, it's done wonders.
It has. And so you don't really, you should get out of school what you can. There's still teachers in schools that are wonderful and totally worth working with. But if you ain't getting it out of school, go to the University of YouTube.
Yeah,
there is a wealth of information, inspiration, guidance.
Yeah.
It's fantastic. Make your own life. Make it by hand.
True. And I guess the internet's making everything so great, so you can always communicate and find forums, blogs with other people.
Absolutely.
And so I think that's also amazing. Debbie, I want to thank you so much for being on The Empire.
You are so kind. It was an honor. It really was. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's say 100 years pass by, half a millennia passes by. What would you like your empire to look like regarding family, being part of the lineage of henna artwork, community, love, spirituality? What would you like your empire to look like half a millennia from now?
I don't know. It's so interesting because I think we're all so, I don't know, we're just here for a short while and we get to visit. And I guess most of us are going to live really lightly. We're not going to leave a lot. But I love that my granddaughter has started to paint. And I love when my daughter pulls out her little set of paints and starts painting pots or has a creative project. And I hope that little ripple effect, even just that, anybody who is inspired by anything I've done or copied anything I've done, that's more of a lasting legacy. They won't even know it was me, but it's okay, right? It's okay, because if that influence gets to live on through somehow inspiring. So if it inspires someone to do something that inspires somebody else to do something, kind of a good thing. I like that. So yeah, because I don't consider that, it would be nice if some of my work outlives me, but I don't know that it ever will. You just never know. And it's okay if it doesn't. I'm trying to fill my days. I want to fill my days. Like I said, when I looked back at the pandemic and that lockdown, and I think, all right, I spent it well. I had a lot to show for that time. I like that. I like feeling that way. You know,
Yeah.
that's good.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. And again, I want to thank you so much for being on the Empire. Can you please tell everybody, Debbie, how they can find you, support you,
Oh,
whether it's henna art, whether it's your art studio? Can you please let everybody know how they can find you?
thank you. I'm Henna Crone on Instagram, so it's HENNACRONE. You'll find me, and it's Debi Varvi Studio on Instagram, so it's DEBI VARVI Studio, and I also have websites under those two names. So got it all, babe.
Yeah, and folks, if you guys don't know, we'll have everything in the links in the description, so that way you can always find her that way. You can just easily click on the button. And I think we had a great show tonight. We know we learned a lot about Debbie, that she's a military brat or an Air Force brat. You know, how she came across henna art by walking with her girlfriends and they forgot to actually look at the henna art. But then also how, you know, I like to look at it as the henna art adopted her into the culture,
I love that.
and she's been a great child of this adoptive culture and passing it on in purpose and learning that, you know, it can work for all skin tones. A lot of people don't probably think and understand that it does work for darker melanated skin tones, but it comes from that actual community and culture. So you guys can get some of yours. And so I think we had a great day today, guys. I think we learned a lot. Again, I want to thank all you guys for watching. I want to thank Ms. Debi Varvi for being on. And please like the video if you haven't already. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't. Comment down below what you guys thought about today, about, you know, maybe if you want to be a tattoo artist, or a henna artist.
Oh, yeah.
Maybe you can reach out to her, learn something.
Absolutely.
Maybe you can, you know, get some pointers, try it out. Or maybe you could find out and get some things, you know, what you thought. Let us know. Again, my name is Antonio Lee Miles. If you want to support us, you can do our Cash App, which is $THEE Empire Podcast. Same for Venmo, PayPal.me/The Empire Podcast. We also have a Patreon. Again, everything will be in the link in the description. And, you know, we can be here all day just sitting down, eating chopsticks, chopping some sticks or whatever. We could be all here just chopping it up and doing anything. But we got other things to do in our lives. But I want to thank you guys. And other than that, we will catch you guys in the next episode. Okay? Peace.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I say it's my duty. Yeah. Is it my will? Yeah. To do what? Yeah. To do is right. I say.
That was fun.
Was?
Yeah, it really was.
enjoy yourself?
Very much. Thank you. Talked about all the things I love.
That's what we're here for. Celebrate you.